We're getting to the end of the year, and the Canadian economy is showing some unexpected strength, including in the new job numbers out today. Let's start there with Sébastien Mc Mahon. He's portfolio manager at IA Global Asset Management. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, a pleasure, Marla.
What do you see as continuing to support jobs these days?
Well, the Canadian economy, we think, is getting some mojo back at the end of this year. We kind of spin positively the fact that it's mostly part-time work that we're seeing here. I mean, when businesses feel less confident, those are the first jobs that go, especially in the youth side. But now that we're seeing businesses starting to rehire part-time workers, especially the youth, and when you mix that with the CFIB business barometer, which is also shooting a little bit higher, it seems that businesses are getting their mojo back. So this is a good development, because the key to the Canadian economy will be to get businesses, the private sector, to invest again in 2026. So we might not be there on the capex yet, but we feel that the pieces are there for the businesses to gain confidence. We have all of those cuts from the Bank of Canada that are now a tailwind for the consumer. So we feel that we have a setup for 2026 to, let's say, outperform a pessimistic consensus. I was looking at the Bloomberg earlier. 1.2% is expected for growth in 2026. We think we could be closer to 2% for sure.
Okay, so the part-time work, and you mentioned a lot of that going to young people. Was it in retail or elsewhere? We would expect it to be in retail at this time of the year with the Christmas rush.
Yeah, exactly. And we're seeing this as being rather, well, broad-based. We're seeing Quebec, we're seeing Ontario having lower unemployment rate, and the real employment rate that we're seeing now globally in the country is the lowest that we've seen in 16 months. So, there are some good reasons to like the Canadian economy. The one risk for 2026 will be the USMCA thing. And, of course, we've heard from Jameson Green, the U.S. Trade Representative, that Mr. Trump will likely want to withdraw from USMCA sooner rather than later. So likely we will be headed towards bilateral trade discussions early in 2026. The hope would be that Canada and Mexico, they want to stick together. They want to negotiate as a bloc. Likely there will be bilateral trade the discussions that will be had. Canada, we hold a few aces up our sleeve with the energy sector that could help as well. Businesses looking at that, of course, you could have some more uncertainty for the beginning of 2026, but you need to start to ask yourself at the other end of this thing, on the other side of this thing, could we negotiate a way out of the steel and aluminum tariffs? Could we get eventually something that would be a better deal than the situation that we're in now? I think those will be the key issues for 2026.
Okay, so let's get back to Canada for a moment, in the sense of, I'm wondering if you expect the Bank of Canada then to hold this month.
Yeah, they were, of course, 100% on our end that they will be holding. Likely they will be striking a more positive tone, because of the recent revisions that we've had to Canadian GDP data show that the Canadian economy is, in fact, a bit stronger than what was expected. So that does bring the ghost of inflation back. Maybe that explains why inflation has been more resilient than expected, so above 2% over the last, most of the last few months. And with the labor market starting to gain as well, you have to start to price in the possibility that it hikes again in late 2026. Not our base case scenario yet. We think they're more on a risk management approach. We think this is the right thing. But of course, this could support the Canadian dollar, which has been on a good stretch over the last few days. And we're still bullish for the Canadian dollar in 2026.
Okay, before I dip more into 2026, you see 2025 as a year of extremes. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, well, we've had Trump 2.0, we've had the trade issues, we've had AI. I'm just off the conference circuit in the fall. I mean, every economist like myself, right, just we're on the road, we get to meet other people, we're on panels. And I was surprised that I heard quite often the baseball analogy that the global business cycle now is in the 7th or 8th inning of the baseball game. We think we're more in the 3rd or 4th inning, because our main leading indicator, which is what we call the monetary policy cycle, is actually pretty much at the highest level that it's been over the last 20 25 years. There's been lots of coordinated cuts by central banks around the world over the last few months. China is doing what it can to support its economy, both on the monetary and the fiscal side. And the Fed is not even through with its own cutting cycle. So we are optimistic. We're not thinking about the end of the baseball game. We're thinking acceleration here, not exhaustion of the global business cycle.
And you mentioned that Canada has a bit of an edge or an ace in its pocket, and that essentially is the amount of energy we have and can provide to the world. Can you expand on that as well?
Yeah, well, the U.S., at least more than 50% of the U.S. oil imports come from Canada. I mean, they need us. They need the energy. They need electricity. We have a few good plays here in Canada, a few good companies that are well positioned to support the U.S. there. If you ask U.S. businesses, the relationship with Canadian and Mexican businesses are very important. We had a Globe and Mail article this morning quoting that the Chamber of Commerce in the U.S. is putting ample pressure internally on the U.S. government to stay with USMCA and be done with those tariffs. So we think that this is necessary for the business model of the U.S. So we do have a few aces up our sleeves. Let's see what we can get out of a negotiation, but we should expect that at least the narrative, the overall narrative in the media, is likely to get much worse earlier this year as Trump pushes against USMCA. But at the end of the tunnel, likely we could be somewhere that would bring more certainty to Canadian businesses than the rut that we're in now.
Sébastien, I'm going to leave it there with you. Amount of time. Thank you for your time. Appreciate that.